Welcome to Cafe Tales. Tonight we step into the mist-shrouded world of Ashworth Hall, a grand estate where the echoes of the past whisper secrets long buried. In this homage to the masterful Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot and his steadfast EO companion Captain Hastings are summoned to Hampshire to unravel a chilling mystery. A spectral figure cloaked in flames haunts the Great Hall, leaving behind ominous warnings and reigniting whispers of a family curse tied to the lost Cavendish jewels. As fear grips the household and renovations grind to a halt, Poirot must navigate a labyrinth of hidden passages, family secrets, and human folly to restore order. Join us for the Ashworth Hall Phantom, where every shadow holds a clue and only the keenest mind can banish the darkness. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you joining us from tonight? Your presence fuels our Cafe Tales journey. Now, let the story unfold. Chapter 1. The Summons and Spectral Manifestation. It was a crisp autumn morning when the post arrived at our modest London flat, a sanctuary Poirot and I had come to value between our adventures. As usual, the breakfast table was strewn with bills and invitations, but one letter, penned on heavy cream paper bearing the Ashworth family crest, immediately caught Poirot's eye. He examined the envelope with his habitual care before opening it with a silver letter opener, a gleam of curiosity brightening his gaze. "Ah, Hastings," he remarked, his Belgian accent lending a familiar warmth to my name. "The Ashworth family is in need of my little gray cells." He read aloud. The letter was from Sir Reginald Ashworth, master of Ashworth Hall, a grand estate in misty Hampshire. Sir Reginald requested Poirot's immediate assistance. The hall was plagued by a spectral apparition, a flaming figure that had terrified the staff and halted renovations. There was mention, too, of a family legend involving lost jewels and old tragedies, though the details were tantalizingly vague. Poirot's mustache twitched as he finished, a sure sign his interest was thoroughly piqued. "Mon ami," he said, folding the letter, "we must depart for Ashworth Hall at once. There is a mystery here that demands the attention of Hercule Poirot. I confess the prospect of a ghostly riddle stirred my own spirit. Life with Poirot was never dull, and we packed with haste, Poirot, of course, ensuring his attire remained impeccable. By early afternoon, we boarded a train bound for Hampshire. The journey was pleasant, the countryside unfolding in gold and russet as autumn deepened. From Newbury Station, where Sir Reginald had thoughtfully arranged a car, we were driven through rolling mist to Ashworth Hall. The estate emerged from the haze like a vision from another age, honey-colored stone walls, elaborate towers, and Gothic arches. I felt a shiver of anticipation, or perhaps unease, as we approached. At the entrance, Mrs. Dorothy Lacey, the housekeeper, greeted us. Her stern face and upright posture spoke of decades of service, but her eyes betrayed anxiety. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, thank you for coming. The staff are quite beside themselves." Poirot inclined his head. "Madame, I am at your service. Perhaps you could show us to Sir Reginald?" Mrs. Lacey led us through the cavernous foyer. Ashworth Hall's interior was as splendid as its exterior. Soaring ceilings, medieval tapestries, and a massive stone fireplace dominated the great hall. Yet for all its grandeur, tension hung in the air. Servants moved in hushed steps, glancing nervously at shadows. Sir Reginald awaited us in the library, a room of oak-paneled walls and towering bookshelves. He rose to greet us, a tall man with an honorable bearing, though a certain naivety softened his expression. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, I cannot thank you enough for coming," he said, his voice tinged with relief. This phantom has brought nothing but fear and disruption to my home. Over tea, Poirot naturally declined the English brew in favor of his preferred tisane. Sir Reginald recounted the troubling events. The phantom, he explained, was a figure cloaked in flames, appearing in the great hall and writing ominous messages before vanishing. The most recent sighting left the word mort glowing in the darkness, a chilling promise of death that sent several maids fleeing. Even Sir Reginald admitted to unease. Poirot listened intently. And this phantom, Sir Reginald, has it caused any harm beyond these appearances? Not yet, Sir Reginald replied. But the fear it inspires is harm enough. I dread what it may portend for Ashworth Hall. Poirot's eyes gleamed with determination. Fear not, mon ami. Poirot shall restore order. Mrs. Lacey then showed us the estate. The grounds stretched across 5,000 acres, with formal gardens, ancient oaks, and a mist-shrouded private lake. The house itself was a marvel, its corridors a maze of history. Passing the Egyptian room, Sir Reginald gestured to a collection of artifacts. My great-grandfather was fascinated by Egyptian mythology, he explained. The death masks and hieroglyphics are quite remarkable. Yet the nervous atmosphere persisted. Servants whispered, and Mrs. Lacey avoided lingering near the great hall. As we walked the long gallery lined with stern-faced Ashworth ancestors, Poirot paused before a convex mirror. Interesting, he murmured. These mirrors, they are original. Yes, Mrs. Lacey replied. Installed during the Victorian renovations. Poirot said no more, but I saw the wheels turning in his mind. That evening, as the mist thickened, Mrs. Lacey approached us with visible anxiety. The manifestations have grown more frequent, Mr. Poirot. 3 nights running now, she confided. Poirot proposed a vigil in the great hall. If this phantom is to appear, Hastings, we must observe it with our own eyes, he declared. The great hall was vast, its ceiling high, tapestries muted by time, and the fireplace cold. By candlelight, the room took on an otherworldly quality. I noted the mirrors strategically placed and the faint drafts, though no windows stood open. We took our places, the silence broken only by the ticking of a long case clock. The hours crept by. Then, as the clock struck midnight, a faint sound, a whisper like silk on stone, roused me. Poirot! I hissed. Did you hear that? He raised a finger. Calm yourself, mon ami. It is merely the wind. But it was not the wind. A figure materialized at the far end of the hall, cloaked in flames that danced and flickered. It moved in silence, face obscured, and in its hand it held a fiery quill. With slow, deliberate strokes, it traced "Mort" in the air. The letters glowed, then faded. The phantom vanished, leaving only a chill behind. I sprang to my feet. Good heavens, Poirot! Did you see that? Poirot was already moving, darting to where the apparition had stood. He stooped and retrieved a scrap of fabric, its edges glowing, faintly. He sniffed delicately. Zinc sulfide, he murmured, satisfaction in his voice. A clever trick, but a trick nonetheless. I was still trembling, but Poirot's calm steadied me. You mean to say it's not a ghost? He chuckled. Mon ami Hastings, there are no such things as ghosts. This is the work of a human hand, and a most ingenious one. He paced the hall, eyes roving over the walls and floor. Notice, Hastings, the placement of the mirrors. They are aligned at precise angles to reflect light or an illusion from one to another. And these drafts, there must be hidden passages behind these walls. I followed his gaze. The mirrors seemed positioned with purpose, their convex surfaces bending light in curious ways. The drafts hinted at unseen openings. Poirot turned to me, contemplative. This phantom, Hastings, is no spirit. It is a deception crafted to frighten and to conceal. But for what purpose? That is the question we must answer. As we retired, the image of the flaming figure lingered in my mind. Yet with Poirot beside me, his confidence a beacon in the dark, I felt hope. If anyone could pierce the veil of this mystery, it was he. Chapter 2. The Mirror Strategy. The morning after our midnight encounter dawned gray and chill, the mist pressing against the windows of Ashworth Hall like a shroud. I found Poirot already at work in our sitting room, his neat figure bent over a roll of parchment spread across the table. His mustache was, as ever, a masterpiece of precision, and his eyes gleamed with the quiet excitement that always accompanied the chase. "Good morning, Hastings," he said, glancing up. "I trust you have recovered from our café adventure?" "Barely, Poirot. That flaming figure gave me quite a turn, but you seem as chipper as ever." He smiled faintly, reproving. "N'importe. It is not a question of cheer. It is the little gray cells. They are awake and eager. And this," he tapped the parchment, "shall be our first step toward the truth." I joined him, peering at the estate blueprints Reginald had provided. They mapped Ashworth Hall in meticulous detail: winding corridors, hidden staircases, and most intriguingly, the placement of mirrors throughout the great hall. Poirot's finger lingered on these markings, his brow furrowed. "These mirrors, Hastings, are not mere decoration. See how they align? It is a system designed to reflect light or perhaps an illusion from one to another." "You mean they're part of the phantom's trick?" "Precision, but we must confirm this with our own eyes. And first, I think we shall speak with someone who knows the secrets of this house. Madame Lacey, perhaps." "Sir Reginald, I understand, is occupied with urgent estate matters this morning, so we must rely on Mrs. Lacey's knowledge of the house." We found Mrs. Lacey in the servants' hall, issuing orders with her usual authority. At our approach, she dismissed a maid and turned to us, her gray eyes appraising. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, how may I be of service?" Poirot offered one of his gallant little bows. "Madame Lacey, Sir Reginald mentioned a family legend, the lost Cavendish jewels. As one who has served the Ashworths for many years, perhaps you could enlighten me?" A shadow flickered across her face. "The Cavendish jewels. A sad story, sir. They were stolen nearly 50 years ago during a grand ball. The thief slipped away into the night and the jewels were lost. Some say their disappearance cursed the family. There have been tragedies ever since." Poirot's expression remained impassive. "And these tragedies, you believe they are tied to the jewels?" "I'm no believer in curses, Mr. Poirot, but the Ashworths have had their share of misfortune. Sir Reginald's father, dead before his time, and his grandfather, too. Folks whisper the jewels are still here, hidden away." "Hidden, you say? Has anyone sought them out?" "Plenty have tried. None have found a thing. The hall guards its secrets well." "Merci, madame. You have given me much to consider." As we left her, I couldn't shake the feeling that Mrs. Lacey had held something back. Her words had been carefully chosen. Armed with the blueprints, we returned to the great hall. Poirot moved with his usual brisk efficiency, his eyes darting from the mirrors to the walls and back again. "Observe. Hastings, their placement is deliberate. If one were to project an image from a hidden recess, it could be caught and multiplied by these surfaces. But how did it glow, Poirot? That fiery effect, it was uncanny. He smiled, a glint of triumph in his eyes. That is the work of zinc sulfide. The scrap we found last night was coated in it, no doubt to create that spectral blaze. He paused by the oak paneling. Hastings, do you feel that? He gestured toward a faint draft. And observe, the grain of the wood here is slightly misaligned. He tapped lightly, producing a hollow sound. With a deft movement, he pressed a hidden catch, and the panel slid open, revealing a dark passage. A hidden panel, Poirot. You were right about secret ways. Naturellement. This is how our phantom moves unseen. Shall we explore, mon ami? The passage was dank and twisting. At length, it opened onto the misty shore of the estate's private lake near the secluded dock. Poirot's sharp eyes soon spotted fresh tracks, deep boot prints, and the scrape of a motorboat's keel. Look here, Hastings. Someone has landed recently, and not by invitation. I think a secret visitor. Could this be how the culprit gets in and out? It is possible. We must keep this in mind. Back in the great hall, Poirot produced a small lantern. Hold this steady, Hastings, and aim the light at that mirror. As the beam struck the glass, it danced from one mirror to the next, weaving a web of reflections. Poirot adjusted the angle, and suddenly the light converged in the center of the room, forming a faint, shimmering shape. Good Lord, Poirot. It's exactly as you said, a trick of light and mirrors. He nodded. And with zinc sulfide added, the effect would be most striking. Our phantom is a clever illusionist, but no ghost. Yet even as we marveled, Poirot's thoughts seemed to turn inward. The word more, why French? It is a puzzle within a puzzle. Perhaps the trickster is from across the channel, or wants us to think so. Perhaps, Hastings, we shall see. Having confirmed his theory, Poirot suggested we speak further with Mrs. Lacey to uncover any underlying tensions within the family. We found her in the drawing room. Madame Lacey, Poirot began, in a grand house such as this, there are often disputes, family matters perhaps, that might trouble the peace. Are there any such tensions within the Ashworth family? Mrs. Lacey's stern expression faltered. Well, there's Mr. Nigel Pembroke, Sir Reginald's cousin. He's caused a fair bit of worry with his gambling. Owes a fearful sum, they say, to Monte Carlo. Sir Reginald's had to hush it up more than once. Most intriguing. And you think this could be connected to the disturbances here? She shook her head. No, sir. Mr. Pembroke's troubles are his own, but they've nothing to do with phantoms. He's too busy chasing his next wager in London. Merci, madame. You have been most helpful. As we stepped away, I felt a familiar thrill of discovery. Nigel Pembroke, Sir Reginald's cousin and potential heir, had not yet crossed our path, but this news painted him in a suspicious hue. Poirot, could Nigel be behind this phantom business? A man with debts like that might try anything. It is a thread, Hastings, one we must follow with care. With the morning's investigations behind us, we settled into the dining room for a modest luncheon. Poirot's attention seemed elsewhere, his fingers drumming lightly on the tablecloth. Hastings, the zinc sulfide. Where does one procure such a substance in a place like this? Zinc sulfide? I suppose it could be from a chemist's shop, or perhaps some industrial source nearby. Exact. But consider, mon ami, the precision required. This is no common prankster's tool. It suggests preparation, perhaps even access to specialized knowledge. The room seemed to grow quieter as his words hung in the air. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Poirot was already several steps ahead, chasing a trail I could scarcely see. Chapter 3. The Bloody Dagger Deception. The afternoon sun hung low over Ashworth Hall, its pale light filtering through the persistent Hampshire mist. After luncheon, Poirot and I retired to the library, a sanctuary of oak and old leather, where my companion stood at the window, fingers steepled, eyes distant. A timid knock broke the silence. Constable William Bradshaw entered, hat in hand, his face pale and earnest. "Begging your pardon, Mr. Poirot." "Captain Hastings, I heard you were looking into this phantom business. I thought you ought to know what I saw myself." Poirot gestured to a chair. "Do sit, mon ami. Every detail is of value to Hercule Poirot." The constable perched on the edge, his hands twisting his hat. "It was 2 nights back, sir." "Sir?" "Reginald had asked me to keep watch, what with all these sightings. I was patrolling the grounds when I saw it through the great hall windows. A figure tall and cloaked in flames, writing glowing letters in the air. I ran inside, but by then, it had vanished." Poirot leaned forward. "And the letters, what did they spell?" Bradshaw swallowed. "Mort, sir. Death. Plain as day." A chill crept up my spine, but Poirot merely nodded, attentive. "And was there anything else? A sound, perhaps, or a scent?" The constable frowned. "A scratching, like claws on wood, and a whiff of something sharp. Sulphur, maybe. It all happened so fast I scarce knew what to make of it." "Mercy, constable. Your courage is commendable. I propose we set a watch this evening, a controlled observation, with you and Hastings at my side. Will you join us?" Bradshaw hesitated, then nodded. "I will, sir. If it'll put an end to this terror, I'll do it." Poirot smiled. "Excellent. We shall meet in the great hall at dusk. Bring a lantern, constable, and your stout heart." The remainder of the afternoon passed in preparation. Poirot arranged lanterns and mirrors with meticulous care, dimming the lights to avoid alerting our quarry. "We must be strategic, Hastings. You and I shall conceal ourselves behind these hangings. The constable will take up his post near the entrance, as if on patrol. The phantom must believe itself unobserved, yet we shall see all." Dusk fell, the mist thickening. We took our places, Poirot and I behind a tapestry, Constable Bradshaw by the entrance. Through a narrow gap I watched the hall, its mirrors, glinting, the fireplace a silent sentinel, the clock ticking steadily. The hours dragged. Then, as midnight struck, a scratching sound pierced the quiet. "Poirot," I whispered. "Did you hear that?" "We shall, Hastings. Be ready." A low, mournful wail echoed from the walls. A chill settled over the room as a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end, cloaked in flickering flames. Its hood bore subtle hieroglyphics. The Anubis symbol gleamed at the collar. In its hand gleamed a dagger, the blade dripping with what looked like blood. Poirot's whisper held me back. "Wait, mon ami. Observe." The phantom glided forward, tracing vengeance in the air with the dagger. The letters glowed, then faded. Sensing our presence, it turned to flee. "Now," Poirot cried, bursting from our hiding place. We charged forward. The phantom darted for the wall and vanished through a panel. Poirot's nimble fingers found the catch, and we plunged into the darkness, lanterns casting wild shadows. The projection system is ingenious, Hastings. A modified magic lantern with mirrors for Pepper's ghost. We emerged into the moonlit garden, but the phantom had vanished. Poirot scanned the ground. Regard this. In the grass glinted a silver cufflink, the Pembroke crest unmistakable. Back in the hall, Poirot examined the puddle left by the dagger. Port, wine, and dye, no blood. Nearby, a Pierrot costume and gramophone completed the illusion. Poirot reassured the trembling Bradshaw. This is no spirit, but a trickster. Soon, I shall unmask him. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed the chase. The phantom's menace, the glinting cufflink, the clever ruse. Who could orchestrate such deception? Mrs. Lacey, Nigel Pembroke, or another yet unseen? One thing was certain. With Poirot on the case, the truth would not remain hidden long. Chapter 4. The Cavendish Inheritance. The first light of dawn crept through the heavy curtains of my room, casting a pale glow across the ornate furnishings. I stirred, still haunted by the previous night's pursuit, and found Poirot already awake, his small figure silhouetted against the window, turning over the silver cufflink we had found in the garden. "Good morning, Hastings," he said, not turning. It appears our phantom is not so spectral after all. I joined him, eyeing the cufflink, a lion and serpent entwined, unmistakably the Pembroke crest. Nigel Pembroke. Poirot's mustache twitched. It is a strong possibility, but we must not leap to conclusions. Today we delve deeper into the family's past. The Cavendish jewels, I suspect, are at the heart of this masquerade. After breakfast, Sir Reginald greeted us in the library, his face drawn with fatigue. Beside him stood Nigel Pembroke, his charm somewhat diminished by a restless air. Poirot, ever courteous, addressed them both. "Sir Reginald, Mr. Pembroke, I wish to learn more about the Cavendish jewels and your family's history." Sir Reginald sighed. "The jewels vanished during a ball 50 years ago. Their loss has haunted us ever since. Some say the family is cursed." Nigel scoffed, though his eyes darted. "Superstition, Poirot. My uncle died of a heart condition. His father in an accident. There's no curse." Poirot smiled gently. "Yet legends often conceal truths. Have you ever sought the jewels?" Nigel hesitated. "I've heard the stories, but I have no interest in chasing ghosts." Poirot nodded, unconvinced. "Might I examine the family archives?" "Of course," Sir Reginald replied, gesturing to the shelves. "The diary of the 5th Earl may interest you." Later that morning, Poirot found the leather-bound volume, its pages filled with cryptic notes. "Regard, Hastings, a treasure safeguarded by fire and stone, hidden where the flames dance. The great hall's fireplace, perhaps. We hurried there." Poirot's fingers traced the carved lions on the mantel. "See, Hastings? This carving is slightly ajar." He pressed gently, and a panel shifted, revealing a narrow recess. Just as Sir Reginald mentioned, his father sealed many passages after the war, erasing knowledge of their locations from family memory. Before we could investigate further, Nigel entered, his face pale. "What are you doing?" Poirot answered mildly. "Admiring the craftsmanship. Does this fireplace hold any meaning for you?" Nigel's composure faltered. "It's just an old fireplace." Poirot produced the cufflink. "Yours, I believe." Upon closer inspection, I recognized the Pembroke crest, which led me to inquire further into your recent activities, and your name appears on the guest list for Monte Carlo's Spectre de Faux illusion, performed in French. A telegram to my colleague in Monte Carlo confirmed your attendance at this event. where you would have witnessed the very techniques used in this haunting, most illuminating regarding your choice of mort as a warning. No. And these theater tickets from London to Hampshire, dated for the nights you claim to be in the city? The station master recalled seeing you here, not there. Nigel's face drained of color. He took a faltering step back, his hands trembling visibly as he wiped them on his trousers. I can explain, he said, his voice cracking with strain. I did return briefly. Yes, it's true. There was an urgent matter I had to attend to. You see, Sir Reginald had asked me to look into some discrepancies in the estate's accounts. He'd been too busy with the renovations, and I came back to sort it out. It was just a few hours each time. I swear I was in London otherwise, dealing with my own affairs. I have nothing to do with this phantom nonsense. I wouldn't even know how to begin such a thing. His words tumbled out in a rush, his eyes flickering between Poirot and the door, as though seeking an escape that wasn't there. Poirot interrupted. Explanations can wait. For now, I suggest you rest, Mr. Pembroke. Nigel departed, leaving. An uneasy silence. Poirot turned to me. Tonight, Hastings, we shall watch closely. The phantom may strike again, and when it does, we shall be ready. As the afternoon waned, Poirot reviewed the estate blueprints once more. See, Hastings, the chimney breast is unusually thick. There may be a compartment concealed within, but the time to reveal it is not yet. I nodded, feeling anticipation build. What's the plan, Poirot? He smiled. Patience, mon ami. All will be revealed in time. That evening, as the shadows lengthened over Ashworth Hall, I could not help but marvel at Poirot's calm. The mystery deepened, but with him at my side, I felt certain the truth would soon come to light. Chapter 5. The Trap in the Grate. All. The third evening at Ashworth Hall found us once again in the Great Hall, that vast chamber where the phantom had twice made its terrifying appearances. The mist outside clung to the windows like a spectral shroud, but within, the hall was a study in grandeur and tension. The medieval tapestries hung silent witness to our vigil, their faded colors muted by the dim light of carefully placed lanterns. The massive stone fireplace stood at the heart of the room, its secrets still concealed, while the strategically arranged mirrors, those convex Victorian additions, glinted faintly, their purpose now central to Poirot's plan. The day had been one of meticulous preparation. As dusk deepened into night, I could not suppress a flutter of apprehension. Poirot moved about the hall with his usual brisk efficiency, his small, dapper figure a portrait of concentration. His mustache was waxed to perfection, and his eyes gleamed with the quiet thrill of the chase. He had spent the afternoon adjusting the lanterns and mirrors, ensuring that their reflections would converge precisely where the phantom was wont to appear. I watched him work, marveling at his ingenuity, though the full scope of his scheme remained a mystery to me. Poirot, I ventured, you've been dashed secretive about this trap of yours. Care to let me in on the scheme? He turned to me, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Mon ami, it is simplicity itself. The phantom relies upon these mirrors to weave his illusion, light and shadow amplified by zinc sulfide, to create his fiery specter. Tonight we shall turn his own trick against him. The lanterns and mirrors will expose the man behind the mask. I nodded, though a shiver ran through me at the thought of facing that flaming figure once more. And how do we catch him? He slipped through our fingers twice already. What with those hidden passages? Poirot's mustache twitched with satisfaction. That, Hastings, is where you and our good Constable Bradshaw shall play your parts. You will station yourselves at either end of the hall, blocking his escape through the known passages. I, Hercule Poirot, shall spring the trap. As night fell, we took our positions. I stood near the entrance to the long gallery, my lantern at my side, heart thudding in my chest. Constable Bradshaw, his face pale but resolute, guarded the opposite end, his light casting a faint glow across the polished floor. Poirot concealed himself behind a heavy tapestry near the fireplace, his presence betrayed only by the occasional glint of his keen eyes through a narrow slit in the fabric. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the steady ticking of the long case clock. The tapestries seemed to loom larger in the gloom, their medieval scenes taking on an almost lifelike quality. My legs ached from standing so long, and I fought the urge to shift my weight, mindful of Poirot's stern injunction to remain still. The air grew colder, a faint draft whispering through the hall from some unseen source, and I found myself glancing nervously at the mirrors, half expecting to see that fiery apparition reflected within. Then, as the clock struck midnight, a soft creak echoed through the stillness, the unmistakable sound of a hidden panel sliding open. My breath caught, and I strained my eyes into the darkness. A flicker of light appeared, faint at first, then growing into a blaze that seemed to ignite the very air. There it was, the phantom, cloaked in flames that danced and flickered, its hooded form advancing with an eerie grace. In its hand gleamed a dagger, the blade dripping with what I knew now to be a sham of blood, port, wine, and dye, as Poirot had deduced. I gripped my lantern, my pulse racing. But before I could act, Poirot's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Now, Hastings, the lights." I sprang into motion, igniting my lantern and directing its beam toward the nearest mirror. The light leapt from one glass to another, weaving a dazzling web that converged upon the phantom. For an instant, the figure faltered, its fiery aura wavering under the assault of reflections. Then, with a sudden, decisive step, Poirot emerged from his hiding place and struck a mirror with a small hammer he had concealed in his coat. The glass shattered with a resounding crash, and in that moment the illusion collapsed. The flames vanished, revealing a man clad in a dark cloak, his face hidden beneath a hood, his hands glowing faintly with the residue of luminescent powder. "Seize!" "Him!" Poirot cried, his voice a clarion call in the chaos. I lunged forward, my heart pounding, but the figure was quick. He darted toward the hidden panel near the fireplace, his cloak billowing behind him. I reached out, my fingers brushing the fabric, but he slipped through the opening with the agility of a shadow. After him, Hastings, Poirot urged, already in pursuit. We plunged into the narrow passage, the walls closing in around us, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and luminescent powder. Despite my earlier terror at the phantom's appearance, I now felt only determination. "I'll circle around through the long gallery passage," I called to Poirot, surprising myself with my initiative. "We'll trap him between us." My lantern cast wild shadows as I stumbled over uneven flagstones, but I pressed on, driven by the thrill of the chase. Ahead, the phantom's glow flickered like a will-o'-the-wisp, leading us deeper into the labyrinth of secret corridors. Just as I thought we had lost him, a shout echoed from behind. Constable Bradshaw, who had circled around through another passage, appeared at the far end, blocking the phantom's escape. The figure skidded to a halt, trapped between us, and in a desperate bid, he turned to face me, his hood falling back to reveal his face. "Nigel Pembroke," I gasped, the recognition hitting me like a physical blow. Sir Reginald's cousin stood before us, his handsome features twisted with fear and defiance, his hand still faintly luminous from the zinc sulfide. For a moment, he seemed poised to flee again, but Poirot stepped forward, his small frame radiating authority. "It is over, Mr. Pembroke," Poirot said, his voice calm yet unyielding. "You cannot escape the truth." Nigel's shoulders slumped, the fight draining from him, as Constable Bradshaw seized his arm. I did it," he muttered, his voice hollow with defeat. "But I swear I meant no harm. It was desperation, nothing more." Poirot's gaze softened, though his resolve remained firm. "Desperation, mon ami, is a cruel master. But come, we shall discuss this before the others. There is much yet to reveal." Within the hour, the great hall was a hive of hushed activity. Sir Reginald stood at the forefront of the assembled family and staff, his honorable features etched with sorrow and disbelief. Beside him, Mrs. Lacey watched with her customary sternness, though a flicker of curiosity danced in her gray eyes. The servants clustered together, their whispers stilled as Poirot took his place before them, his small figure commanding the room with an authority that belied his stature. "Ladies and gentlemen," Poirot began, his voice clear and precise, "before I reveal the identity of our phantom, allow me to show you the true treasure of Ashworth Hall." He gestured toward the massive fireplace, its stone facade imposing in the candlelight. "The key to this mystery lies here, within this very hearth." He approached the fireplace, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings until they settled on a lion's head, its mouth subtly ajar. "In the diary of the 5th Earl, I discovered a riddle. A treasure safeguarded by fire and stone, hidden where the flames dance." It was this clue combined with the estate plans that led me to suspect a hidden compartment. With a gentle press on the carving, a soft click echoed through the hall, and a panel in the chimney breast slid open, revealing a narrow recess. Poirot reached inside and withdrew an ornate box, its surface tarnished but unmistakable. He placed it on a nearby table and opened it with reverence, revealing the Cavendish jewels, diamonds, rubies, and emeralds that glittered like stars in the dim light. A collective gasp rose from the assembly, but Poirot raised a hand for silence. These jewels, hidden for decades, were the object of our phantom's desire. It was not theft that spirited them away, as legend would have it, but the careful hand of the 5th Earl himself, who concealed them here to safeguard the family's legacy during a time of great unrest. "But first," he continued, "let me explain the mechanism of the haunting that so terrified this household." He gestured toward the mirrors that adorned the walls. These convex mirrors, installed during the Victorian renovations, were central to the illusion. By positioning a light source, such as a lantern coated with luminescent zinc sulfide, behind a hidden panel, the culprit could project its glow onto the mirrors. The precise alignment of these mirrors was critical, each positioned at exactly 37 degrees to create a converging reflection pattern. I found alignment tools and detailed calculations in Mr. Pembroke's quarters, showing a sophisticated understanding of optical physics. The convex surfaces distorted and multiplied the light, creating the appearance of a floating, fiery figure. The writing in the air was achieved by tracing letters with a zinc sulfide-tipped rod, the mirrors reflecting the light to make the words seem suspended in midair. He paused, allowing the assembly to absorb this revelation. The eerie sounds that accompanied the apparitions, those mournful wails you may recall, were produced by a gramophone concealed in an alcove, adding to the atmosphere of dread. "Sir," Reginald interjected, But how did he devise such a scheme? Poirot's eyes gleamed. An excellent question, Sir Reginald. Mr. Pembroke's inspiration came from Monte Carlo. There, amidst the revelry, he attended a magic show featuring a similar illusion, a floating, fiery figure. He adapted this trick using mirrors and zinc sulfide to craft his phantom. And the zinc sulfide? Mrs. Lacey asked. Poirot nodded. He consulted a chemist in London, madam, who supplied the powder and its application method, believing it was for an innocent experiment. With this, and his knowledge of the estate's passages, he executed his plan. Boot prints and motorboat marks by the lake confirmed his secret deliveries. A murmur rippled through the crowd, but Poirot's voice cut through it. And now, the identity of our phantom. He turned to Nigel, who stood pale and trembling under the weight of accusing eyes. Monsieur Nigel Pembroke, driven by mounting debts, sought to uncover the jewel's location. He had begun to decipher the coded diary, but needed time to complete, his work undisturbed. Thus, he orchestrated the haunting to frighten away the staff and keep the hall empty while he continued his search. Nigel's head bowed. When he spoke, his voice was scarcely audible. It's true. I was desperate. $15,000 owed to Monte Carlo. I thought if I could find the jewels, I could sell them and be free of my debts. I never meant to harm anyone. Sir. Reginald stepped forward, his face a mask of anguish. Nigel, how could you? To bring such shame upon us? Poirot interjected gently. Sir Reginald, the matter is now in your hands. The jewels are restored, the deception unveiled. For the sake of the Ashworth name, we shall let you decide how you wish to handle this affair. Sir Reginald's brow furrowed in thought, his gaze shifting from Nigel to the constable, whose expression was a mix of duty and sympathy. After a long moment, Sir Reginald spoke, his voice heavy with resolve. Constable Bradshaw, I must ask for your discretion in this matter. For the honor of my family, this must remain within these walls. Lady Eleanor returns from Paris next week to finalize our wedding arrangements. A scandal now would devastate her reputation in society and cast a shadow over our future. I cannot allow that. Bradshaw nodded solemnly. Of course, Sir Reginald. I'll not breathe a word of it. Turning back to Nigel, Sir Reginald continued. As for you, cousin, you must leave England. Go abroad and start anew. I'll provide for your passage and a modest sum to see you settled. But you cannot remain here. Nigel's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but he murmured, Thank you, Reginald. I'm sorry for everything. With the confession laid bare, Poirot addressed the assembly once more. Before we part, allow me a few words on the psychology of fear and greed. It is fear, mes amis, that blinds us to reason, making us prey to such illusions, and it is greed that drives men to desperate acts, heedless of the ruin they sow. Yet in the end, the truth prevails, as it must. His words lingered in the air, a quiet admonition that seemed to ease the tension in the room. Sir Reginald approached Poirot, his hand outstretched. Mr. Poirot, I owe you more than I can say. You've saved my home and my legacy. Poirot shook his hand with a gracious nod. It was my pleasure, Sir Reginald. Now I believe Hastings and I have earned a rest. Chapter 6. The Truth in the Winter Garden. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the mist at last relinquishing its hold on Ashworth Hall. Poirot and I strolled through the gardens, the air crisp with the scent of dew-kissed roses and the gentle hum of bees among the late-blooming asters. The estate seemed to breathe easier, its grandeur restored now that the shadow of the phantom had been dispelled. We found Sir Reginald waiting for us in the winter garden, a glass-walled conservatory where sunlight danced on the leaves of exotic palms and ferns. He looked relieved, though the strain of recent days still lingered in his eyes. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he greeted us warmly. "I cannot thank you enough. The staff are returning, the workmen have resumed their tasks, and Ashworth Hall feels like home again." Poirot bowed graciously. "It is order restored, Sir Reginald, as it should be. The truth, you see, is a great comforter." At Sir Reginald's request, Poirot gathered the household, Mrs. Lacey, Constable Bradshaw, and even a subdued Nigel Pembroke, who stood apart, his head bowed. The servants clustered respectfully at the back. Their curiosity barely contained, Poirot addressed them all, his voice gentle but firm. "Mes amis, let us review what has transpired. The phantom that haunted these halls was no spectre, but a clever illusion, one that preyed upon fear and superstition. The mirrors, the secret passages, the luminescent powder, all were tools in a most elaborate deception." He turned to Nigel, whose eyes glistened with remorse. "Monsieur Pembroke, desperation led you astray, but you are not the first, nor will you be the last, to let fear and want cloud your judgment. You have confessed, and Sir Reginald has shown mercy. Let that be your lesson, and your salvation." Nigel managed a grateful nod, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Poirot. Thank you, Reginald." Poirot continued. "The Cavendish jewels have been restored to their rightful place. The family's honor is intact, and the estate's future secure. Let this be a reminder. The greatest phantoms are those we create ourselves, born of secrets, greed, and fear." There was a hush as his words settled over the gathering. Then Sir Reginald stepped forward, his relief evident. "Thank you, Mr. Poirot. You have my eternal gratitude. Lady Eleanora will return to her home at peace." Poirot inclined his head. "It was my pleasure, Sir Reginald. Now Hastings and I shall take our leave, though I dare say should another mystery arise, you know where to find us." As we departed, Poirot paused at the threshold, casting a final glance back at the sunlit winter garden. "You see, Hastings," he murmured, "the true phantom is always human folly, reflected and multiplied until reason dispels the shadows." I smiled, feeling the tension of the past days slip away. "Well said, Poirot. I suppose there will always be another shadow to chase." He chuckled, adjusting his hat with a flourish. "Perhaps, mon ami. But for now, let us enjoy the peace we have earned." And so, with Ashworth Hall restored and the phantom laid to rest, we return to London, until, as ever, the next adventure calls. As dawn breaks over Ashworth Hall, the mist lifts, and with it the shadow of fear that has long haunted its halls. Hercule Poirot's brilliance has dispelled the phantom, a mere illusion born of desperation and greed. Nigel Pembroke's confession lays bare the truth. A man driven by debt, willing to terrify an entire household to uncover the hidden Cavendish jewels. Yet through Poirot's mastery of light, mirrors, and human nature, the deception is unraveled, and the jewels gleam once more in their rightful place. Let this tale remind us that the greatest phantoms are those we create ourselves, born of fear and desire. But with reason and courage, even the darkest illusions can be dispelled. We hope this journey through shadows and secrets has enthralled you, dear listeners. Did you deduce the phantom's identity before Poirot? Or did the hall's grandeur deceive you? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for joining us. Until our next tale, may your nights be filled with wonder and your days with clarity.